us for our Getting Ready for 2026 webinar series. My name's Ashley. I'm on the customer success team here at Tiller. I'm joined by Talane, who is also a member of our success and support team. So this is the first session in a series of six. Each session is going to cover a different getting started topic, and they're all going to happen at this time every week. So Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern time. If you can't make it to a session, but it appeals to you, don't worry. Sign up anyway. We're going to provide a recording of each one. So don't worry about that. We'll make sure to send out the recording to everyone who registered, even if you don't attend. I'm sure a lot of you who are attending are brand new to Tiller. So if you're brand new, welcome. We're really happy to have you with us. We also have some attendees, names that I recognize who've been with Tiller for a while. So if you've been with us for a little bit, it's awesome to have you here too. January is a really good time to brush up on your Tiller fundamentals so that you can get everything in order for the year ahead. So regardless of how long you've been with us, we're super happy to have you with us. Today's session is going to be all about how to get your financial data into Tiller with confidence. And as I mentioned throughout the session, please feel free to ask questions using that Q&A feature in Zoom. We'll have time to answer some questions at the end, but if we don't get to your question today, that's okay. We're going to follow up tomorrow with answers to every question that was asked. So you'll get to see everybody else's questions and the answers to that. And we'll send that out with the recording, so either later today or early tomorrow. Okay. So as I mentioned, today is the first in a series of 6 getting started videos. Each session is going to happen at this time, and this is kind of an overview of everything we'll be covering. So today we're going to be talking about aggregators, how to connect your accounts, and importing CSV files. Our future sessions are going to cover the basics of the foundation template, how to create and optimize categories, creating a budget for the year ahead, how to use the Tiller community, and then we'll do a more general Q&A with the Tiller team to go over some of the more common questions that get asked for folks who are setting up their accounts. Okay, so an overview of the things that we're going to cover today. So we're going to start off by talking about Tiller's console, which is where you're going to manage your accounts and access your spreadsheets from. It's kind of the command central of your Tiller experience. Then we'll talk all things aggregators, so what they are, how they work, and what that means for your Tiller account. We'll also talk about how to connect your bank accounts to Tiller so that your transactions and balances are all flowing into your spreadsheets automatically. And we'll talk about how to manually import your banking information and when that's a good option based on your own needs. Overall, the goal of this session is going to be to give you the confidence to navigate your Tiller console and connect your accounts, both through our aggregators and the manual import. And as I mentioned, feel free to submit questions throughout, just using that Q&A feature. Okay. Okay, so before we get into the details of it, I wanted to briefly touch on what Tiller is all about. So if you're brand new to Tiller, Tiller is essentially your financial life in a spreadsheet. It's automatically updated every day. It allows you to see all of your finances in one place, so you don't need to switch between your different apps or sites to see where your money is. It helps you to create budgets, to categorize your spending, and so much more. I think the really key piece of Tiller that differentiates it is that it's your data and you choose what to do with it. Next week, we'll dive into the foundation spreadsheet, but that's a super easy to use sort of getting started template that every account has access to. But if you're sort of a spreadsheet wizard or have more specific needs, you can do really anything with it because, again, it's your data and it's in a spreadsheet that you can update and change. So we give you full control of that data, whether it's, whether you're new to using Google Sheets or Excel, or you've got a lot of experience with spreadsheets. Okay. So as we go through the webinar, I'm going to flip back and forth between my slides here and my Tiller account. So right now, let's head into the console and I'll give you a little bit of a tour of what that looks like. So this is my Tiller console here with my real accounts attached. So starting out at the top here, you'll see linked spreadsheets. So we'll get into spreadsheets and how to manage those next week. But for right now, this is kind of where you'll create a new spreadsheet. You can select either Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, and where you'll manage your existing spreadsheets. So here you can see a list of my linked accounts. And you'll notice only some of these are checked off. So I don't have every account going into my template for this one. So you can really, again, pick and choose what information is relevant and sort of set up your sheets the way that it makes the most sense for you. If you wanted to manage certain accounts separately, you totally have the power to do that. Next, as we scroll down here, you'll see manage accounts. And this is where you can add a new connected account or import a CSV file. And we'll talk about the specifics of that a little bit more later. Coming down here, we have our connected accounts. So under the connected account summary, you'll see I've connected 2 financial institutions. So I've connected my TD Bank EasyWeb account and my Wealthsimple account. You'll notice under each of these, I have multiple accounts. So you connect the financial institution and then you'll have whatever relevant accounts underneath. So again, you can kind of get an overview of everything here. You can also see which aggregator is connected, and we'll talk about what that means in a little bit. But for example, you can see that for my TD Bank, I've connected via Yodlee, which is one of our data partners. And for Wealthsimple, I've connected via Plaid. So this is kind of like Command Central to see everything that you have connected and everything that you have set up that's able to be pulled into your spreadsheets. Okay. And I will go through a demonstration of how to connect accounts shortly. Okay. You can also have an option to add manual accounts, and I'll go through a demo of this too. But essentially, a manual account is one either where it doesn't connect automatically through our aggregators, or you maybe want to manage it separately and manually update it. That's where you would do this, and I'll show you the details of that as well. And then finally down here, you can see the Hello Money section. So this is essentially your subscription preferences for the daily email that Tiller sends out. You can customize what information and how much detail you want to be included here. So for me, I have it set up that in my daily email, I'll just see the balances for each of my accounts. But you can customize this as well. If you wanted a more detailed view of transactions, you can do that here. Or if you just want to see the account status, you can do that too. You can also select to add recipients from here. So if you wanted to CC maybe a spouse or a business partner who needs access to these accounts or their information, you can do that simply by entering their email address in here. Okay. So now we can head back into our presentation. And the next thing we're going to talk about are aggregators. So you heard me mention Yodlee and Plaid, and those are the 2 that we work with. And essentially, an aggregator is going to be this third-party service that connects Tiller to your bank account. So Tiller doesn't connect directly to each bank. Instead, we use these aggregators that sit in between Tiller and your bank account and act as a messenger in between. So they're going to be the ones that handle your transaction and balance information and then pull that through into your spreadsheets. So as I mentioned, we work with 2 partners, Plaid and Yodlee. You don't need to create accounts with them. Tiller is going to handle all of that for you when you sign up. And together, Plaid and Yodlee allow you to connect with over 20,000 different financial institutions. So chances are your institution will be supported by either of these providers. If you're curious about which institutions are supported, you can check out our list of Plaid and Yodlee supported institutions. We've got 2 public spreadsheets available. I'll include those in the resources that I send out later, but I'll give you a quick view of what those look like here. So if I click into this tab, this is going to be all of our Plaid supported institutions. So the easiest way, because there are tens of thousands, would be to do, say, Control F. And then if you wanted to search for an account, you can just start typing in the name of the institution. So let's say I bank with Fifth Third Bank. If I start typing that in to the search, it'll come up here and you'll be able to see the types of products that are supported by that connection. So with Plaid, you can see here, these are all of the different options for the accounts that you can add. Similar thing for Yodlee. If I come in here, it's a list of all of the accounts as well, and you can search in just the same way. So do your Control F and then start typing in the name of your institution. Oops. And it'll highlight that for you. And so you can see all the information about how it's supported, where it's supported, and all of that. You'll see for a lot of institutions that there are multiple institution names that fall under the same thing. So you'll see this would be like the Fifth Third HSA. This would be their securities option. So different institutions might have multiple entities with a similar name. So just make sure you're searching for the one that applies to you and your accounts. Okay. So next, let's take a look at how you would actually go ahead and add an account in your Tiller console. So I'm going to head into my console here, and I'll scroll back up to manage accounts. And so now that we know a little bit about aggregators, when you sign up for Tiller, you'll have a default aggregator, but you will have access to the alternative one. So for me, my account defaults to Yodlee. So that'll be the first one that we show, but I'll show you what it looks like through Plaid as well, just so you have an idea. It's super, super simple to get set up. So if I click Add Accounts, this pop-up is going to appear and it'll give options for the most common account types, but you can, again, just search your institution. So again, let's say I bank with Fifth Third. Once I type that in and search, it's going to bring up all of the options that I have for, their associated accounts. Let's say I just have my basic checking account here. So I'll click on that option and it's going to bring up a login modal in the pop-up. And all you need to do here to connect your account is enter the user ID and password credentials that you use for your bank account. So if you were logging into your bank account, you're going to use those same credentials here. I'm not actually going to sign in, but what you would do is put your user ID, password, click submit. If you have multi-factor authentication, so you need a code that's emailed or texted to you, you'll be prompted for it here. But that's it. That's how you sign up for to connect an account here in Yodlee. I'll show you what it looks like in Plaid as well. So if I come in here, this is probably more what your accounts look like. I have a bit of an older account. But so here you'll see the Plaid option, and it's going to be super similar. So if I click on that, it should bring up a little pop-up. Now, because I've already signed into Plaid in this browser, it's automatically defaulting to my phone number. So you might not have that step, but I'm going to go through as a guest just to kind of show you what that looks like if you don't have a Plaid login. So I'll say continue as guest. And again, it's going to give you the option here to search for your institution. So very similar to how it looks through Yodlee. Let me search that. Click through. This you'll see, I think for Yodlee, there were 5 or 6 different associated institutions under Fifth Third. For Plaid, there's only 2. So again, there might be some difference between which institutions are supported by which data aggregator. But again, if I'm just doing the basic one, it'll prompt me to enter my credentials for that bank account. I would hit submit, and that's it. So it's really, really simple to add your accounts here if you're using a connected account. Back in here, looking at the accounts that I have connected, you'll see the names of these accounts. And the names of these accounts are just provided by the institution. So this is whatever they're named in your institution. But you can update these in Tiller if there's a different account name that makes sense for you. So for example, if I come down to my Wealthsimple account, I have my education savings plan for my son. If I had more than one kid, maybe I would want to name these differently just to specify which is which. So let's say I want to rename this one to be specific. So I'll come in here and I can add his name, rename it, we're all set. So if there's a name that makes more sense for your accounts to be shown in Tiller, you have the full control to update that on your side here. Okay. So now that we've kind of talked a little bit about adding the accounts and what the data aggregators are, I wanted to talk about refreshes. This can be a a bit of a confusing topic, especially for newer users. And so I really want to make sure that we go over this. So the important thing to remember is that transactions are pulled into Tiller periodically and not in real time. So if you've made a purchase, very recently in the last few hours, and you open up your sheet and you don't see that transaction, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your connection. It might just mean that a refresh hasn't happened yet. So a refresh is when your data aggregator checks for new data at your bank. And if that new data is available, it'll be made available in our database and then therefore available in your spreadsheets. So refreshes can happen in two different ways. They can be automatic or they can require a manual intervention. In terms of the automatic refreshes, Plaid and Yodlee will handle this process a little bit differently. So Yodlee refreshes once every day. Plaid refreshes twice every day. So just a little bit of a difference on that. Yodlee will also allow you to do a manual refresh from your console, but Plaid does not at this time. So slight difference between those. For some institutions, especially those that need multi-factor authentication, you might need to take action in your Tiller console in order to complete that refresh of your transaction data. So multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is that additional security measure that goes beyond just your username and password. So for example, if you log into your institution and it requires like a text code that's been sent to your phone or email address, that would be multi-factor authentication. So for those accounts, sometimes you do need to do a manual refresh. Some institutions also require that you have a manual refresh, even if they don't have MFA. So about 95% of our supported institutions do offer automatic refreshes. So you might never run into needing to do a manual refresh, but eligibility is dependent on the individual account. And again, this isn't something that Tiller controls. This is controlled by the institution. Another thing to kind of keep in mind here is that the auto refresh status can change over time, meaning that it could be disabled temporarily. So say there's a technical difficulty on the banking website, they could temporarily disable that automatic refresh and then re-enable it at a later time. So it's always a good idea to check in, look at your console, and make sure that things are pulling in the way that you expect them to. Okay. So if you do need to do a manual refresh, it's going to show up in your console. So you can see here in the first one, you'll see a Plaid connection, and it has that red fix button. And then the bottom screenshot here for this CarMax account shows a Yodlee account that needs a manual refresh. And so you'll see that that refresh button shows up in blue. You'll also notice that it's got this red triangle next to it, sort of indicating that the refreshes aren't happening automatically. If you see this in your console, you just need to click either that fix or refresh button, and then you'll be prompted to sign in. So the good thing is that it's going to be fairly obvious from your console view if you do have an account that requires intervention. Okay. A couple of notes with refreshes here. So again, Tiller does not control whether or not a refresh can be completed automatically by the data provider. And again, whether or not a connection can automatically refresh is going to depend on the technology being used for the integration between Yodlee or Plaid and your institution. So again, it's not at the Tiller level, and it really depends on the bank and which aggregator you're using. Tiller can also only pull in cleared transaction data. So pending transactions aren't going to show up until they clear. And this can take 2 to 3 days for some transactions. Credit card transactions, for example, usually take a little bit longer to clear, whereas debit transactions are usually available right away. And then finally, some accounts might refresh less frequently than others, and this is totally normal. So low frequency accounts like loans, mortgages, and insurance accounts only refresh once or twice a month. And this makes sense, right? Because these aren't accounts that are having daily or even weekly transactions in most cases, unlike your debit card and credit card. So these are just common things that come up when folks are wondering, why hasn't this refreshed, or why am I not seeing these transactions? It could be because they haven't cleared yet, or it's one of these low frequency accounts. Okay. So let's talk now about manual accounts. In some cases, you might want to manually add an account and transaction data to Tiller rather than having it connected through Yodlee or Plaid. So there's two main cases for this. The first being that your institution is unsupported via Plaid or Yodlee. And then the second is wanting to pull in historical data. So when you first connect your Tiller account to your bank, it'll pull in between 30 and 90 days of your most recent transaction data. And this is a limitation on the bank side, so it's not something that Tiller can control for. For example, when I signed up and set up Tiller for my TD checking account, it only brought in 30 days of data. And so if you want to include transactions from prior to that date, you'll need to import it manually through a CSV file. Once you've imported CSV data, it behaves the same as bank feed data. So it's just the process of getting it into Tiller that looks a little bit different. It'll behave the exact same once it's in your sheet. So we'll come into our console again here. And the first thing we'll do is create a manual account. So I'm going to scroll down here to manual accounts, and I'll click add account. And so when it's manual, you'll determine your account name, your account number, the institution that you're adding. You can just add the name. You can choose what type of asset class it is, so asset or liability, the type, so checking, credit, investment, loan, other, savings, the date that you've done it, and your current balance. So let's do, I'll say test account. I'll say my account number is that. I'll add in my account name. We'll say it's an asset. I'll say it's a checking account. We'll use today's date. And then let's say our starting balance is $2,000. I'll click add account. And now you have this manual account with a balance. Now, if I scroll up here to my spreadsheets, you'll also see now that this manual account is able to be added and linked to your existing spreadsheet. And again, from here, an easy way to keep track of things is that you can see the source. So you can see that all these accounts are Yodlee, the bottom ones are Plaid, and then this is my one manual account that I've added. So if I wanted to link it to this existing sheet, I could just check that off. But it is going to be immediately available. Okay. So we've done this, we've added the account, and we have given it our starting balance, but we don't have any transaction information. Some people do just track their balances for manual accounts. And whenever you need to, if you have sort of like a set schedule that you wanted to update this, you can just click update balance, and then you can go ahead and update that. So say I had a deposit and now my balance is $2,500. You can update it manually through there. But you can import your transactions if you want to. So most financial institutions from your transactions page are going to allow you to export those transactions as a CSV file. So that's something you can totally do. I have, and let me just drag this into my screen here. So I created just a test CSV file that just has these sort of main categories. So I have the date of the transaction details. So that would be, the store or wherever I spent my money, the amount, and then the type. These are all debits. And so every bank is going to have a different format, but I'll show you why that doesn't matter here. So if I go into import CSV, I'll get this pop-up that's going to tell me this workflow allows you to import transactions directly into Tiller's database for a Tiller managed account. So I'm going to click upload. I will select my account, and then you'll select the account that you want to add it into. So this is going to be for my manual account, but you'll see here that you can select your existing connected accounts. And so if you were importing historical data to a currently connected account, you would do that here as well. But this is just my manual account, so I'm going to select that. I'll click next. And then here is where you're going to map your columns. So in my CSV file, the column names might be different than what we use in Tiller. So I'll just select what we need here. So I'll do transaction details for description, and then I'll do type for category hint. And that's it. I'll click finish and we're all set. And yeah, that's basically it. So you can do this by exporting directly from your bank and then importing into Tiller. And you'll be all set. And those transactions will be available to be added into your sheets. Okay. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind if you are managing things manually. One of the big things to keep in mind is that you want to avoid duplicates. So Tiller will not automatically account for duplicates if you import into an existing account. So before you upload a CSV, just double check that the transactions that are already in your spreadsheet don't overlap with what you're importing. So if you are doing one of those historical data imports, you're just going to want to review the date ranges of the transactions for each account and just make sure that, again, they don't overlap. Otherwise, you'll have to manually go through your sheet and manage those duplicates, which can be a little bit messy. So you don't need to worry about that. And then another thing I wanted to mention is that Tiller manages balances and transactions separately. So if you import a CSV that's full of transactions into one of those manual accounts, it's not going to automatically update your balance. So again, you will want to make sure that you're periodically editing that balance based on your transactions, because just importing a CSV of transactions will not change your balance at all. So just to make sure that things are as up to date as possible, you always want to make sure that you're updating your balance separately, even if you've imported your transactions. Okay. So that is the overview of aggregators, connecting accounts, and importing CSVs for manual accounts. So we can move on to the Q&A portion. I do want to let you know that we can't answer any questions that are specific to your account. So if you're having an issue with a connection that's specific to you and it's not a general question, our support team would love to help you out. So if you do need tech support, please email us at support@tiller.com, or you can click the support button at the bottom right of your console, and I'll show you what that looks like in my account here. You'll see this little chat icon. If you open that up, you'll be able to start a message. We also have a great support bot that can help direct you to resources, but you can always get in touch with a human if you need to as well. This is also a great way to get into our help center. So we have some incredible resources that I would highly recommend you check out. The biggest one, if you're just getting started with us, is the Foundations Guide. So definitely make sure you click in here and open that up. So just to kind of show you the Foundations Guide, this is sort of everything you need. You'll see the table of contents here. It gives you a step-by-step on every part of getting started with Tiller, and especially on using the foundation sheet. So highly recommend checking out our help center. It's a really, really great resource. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone through everything, let me head over into our Q&A here. Okay. So I see Trelawney's gone through some of these, but let's go through some of these questions here that might be helpful for everybody. Okay. All right. So Richard asked, does it make sense to start a new spreadsheet for the new year? So you don't have to. It's really up to you. This is something that you can choose to do. So some folks will just extend their existing sheet out into the new year to keep all of that in. Other people start fresh. It's really a matter of personal preference. But we do cover that in the webinar from last month that's available in the community. So definitely check that out because that's going to take you through all of the steps there. Okay. A couple questions here that seem specific to certain institutions. And so again, that would have to be addressed with our support team. Okay. This is a great question about the Hello Money email. So if I pull up my console again here. So Miranda asked, can you control which of the accounts the person that you share the Hello Money email with can see, so that you don't have to share all of them, but just a selection? So at this time, no. Anybody who is added as a recipient will receive the exact same Hello Money email that you do. But good to keep in mind if you did want to share that with somebody. We also have the option to add somebody as a secondary user on your account. So if you did want somebody to have more access to Tiller generally, not just the Hello Money email, but have access to your basic account information and access to your sheets, you can add a secondary user as well. And we've got some info about that in the Help Center too. Okay. We had a question. Is there a way we can get Tiller to download our monthly statements? So not at this time, but that's a great question. Is one aggregator better to use, either Yodlee or Plaid? So this is a really good question. It's one that we get a lot, and it really just depends. I don't think one's better than the other. I think they're just different, and it's going to depend on the different account that you have. We do have a help article here that kind of covers the difference between Plaid and Yodlee. And so one of the things that I did mention is the refresh frequency is different. So Yodlee is only going to refresh once per day. Plaid is going to be checked for updates twice per day. But again, it really depends. Some institutions are only supported by one and not the other. In other cases, you might find that there is a technical issue using one aggregator that's not present using the other. So sometimes you'll have this connection issue that's just not quite working for you. And if you switch to the other aggregator, your account will connect no problem. So that can be part of the troubleshooting process for us. But yeah, I would say one's not better than the other. They kind of work together to make sure that we can support as many institutions as possible. And yeah, this is a great resource as well in the Help Center that's called How Often is New Data Added to my Tiller? But yeah, lots of information available here about how that all works.
Yeah, Ashley, since we're
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
Michael asks regarding the CSV import, what if your institution uses debit and credit columns? I presume this is about needing to import data with different polarity. If we can just show the guide for the CSV importer,
Yeah.
which describes the expected formatting for the CSV file.
Yeah, that's great. Let me pull that up here. Okay. Okay, yeah, here we go. Let me just pull this across. Okay, there we go. Um, yeah, so you can see here for supported amount formats, we accept two different formats. So there's a really good breakdown of that here. So you can either have a column with the header amount and then use positives and negatives, or you can have, so yeah, with absolute values. Or you can do inflow and outflow or credit and debit if you needed to do it that way. So again, it'll really just depend on how your institution exports them. But this is a great resource, and I'll include this in the resources list when we share that out today as a resource. But yeah, that's a good one. There is also the case of reverse polarity amounts. So usually for credit cards, but if the CSV you export from your bank has a different polarity than what Tiller expects. So meaning if it's a negative versus a positive value, it can be imported incorrectly. But we do have a feature on the column mapping screen to reverse the credits and debits. So I'll actually just pop into my account here and quickly show where that looks like. Okay, I'll select my manual account. And then yeah, under here, under advanced settings, you can see credits, debits are reversed. And so you can just check that off if that applies to your sheet. That's a really good question. Okay. Going through a few more here. Um, okay. Yes. We have a question about the Apple Card. We still don't support that, or our data provider doesn't support that. But you can use a manual import for those ones. Um, okay.
We have a question here from Cheryl, who asks, if I want to track my investment account balances but don't want all of the individual transactions from those accounts, how would I handle that? And I think that's also something that the Hello Money product can address, where you can just track balances and exclude transactions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, if you do have a manual account or something where you're not interested in seeing every transaction, you can definitely turn that off in the Hello Money updates, because that's kind of your Hello Money email is kind of your daily insight into what's going on. So you can choose again like only balances, or if you want to see transactions for all of them. So um, yeah, it's a great question. Okay. Abdul asks, is there a resource that goes over best practices in regards to categories? For example, what is a good category name for credit card payments? So we are going to have a session all about categories and how that works in Tiller, how you can automate your categories. Um, the long and short of it is you can kind of make it as specific or as broad as you want. We do have a great resource about categories that I can share in the follow-up email. But we'll have some default categories that are available, but you can create as many custom categories as you need. And so you're free to modify that in whatever way makes the most sense for you. We actually have a really good community topic about this as well, where people have chatted about how they do categorization. So I'll link to that as well. But yeah, it's because it is customizable and all your data, you can customize them as much as you want to. Um, you did mention specifically credit card payments. A lot of people will categorize those as transfers, but again, we'll cover that. We'll cover that separately. Okay, cool. Tracy asked, can you use both Plaid and Yodely? Yes, absolutely. So we will allow you to use both aggregators if that makes sense. So you can see in my account here. I do have one that is a Yodely connection and one that's a Plaid connection. So you do have the option to use both, just depending on the account. The one thing to be really careful of here, again, is going to be duplicates. So you do want to be careful not to have a live connection with both providers for the same account. Otherwise, you'll see that pulling in twice. But yes, if you have one account that's supported by only Yodely, but you're using Plaid for everything else, you can feel free to use either both, whatever is going to work the best for your setup. Cheryl asked, where do I find links to previous webinars? So there are community posts that are tagged webinar, but I will send a link to our New Year webinar that we just had back in December, so a month ago. We've got some great foundations webinars and also from previous years. So I will link out to those as well. Okay. Yeah, Ed had a great question. Can you go over how to log in? I'm concerned that if the account owner becomes ill, there's a divorce or a death, etc., how would Tiller be transferred to a new owner? So that's a great question. Let me head over here. So essentially, we use the single sign-on from Google or Microsoft. So you can either sign in using your Google account or your Microsoft account. So if I log out here, you'll see this login option. So I'll click continue with Google, and then I will log in with my Tiller email. And then that's it. We don't use a username and password. So it is always linked in this way. So if you did need to hand over the account to an additional person, they would also need to have access to your either Gmail account or your Microsoft account. Okay, just taking a look here. Okay. Philip asks, once a connection has been made, how do I get those transactions into my spreadsheet? So next week, we're going to cover everything about the foundation template, but we do have a really great article that I'll send over now that is all about how to get your data in and how to fill your sheet with all of your transactions. Okay. Cheryl asked about importing last year's transactions from Quicken and then using Tiller for all new transactions. We actually have a guide specific to Quicken. So if anybody's coming from using Quicken, if you check out the Help Center and just type in Quicken, we actually have like a step-by-step guide about how to import that data. So that's a super easy way to get into that. Okay. Cool. As I'm looking through the rest of the questions here, it looks like some of these are specific to different accounts, and so I can't answer those live, but definitely reach out to our support team. We'll be happy to help there. Cool. Tulani, were there any that I missed that are coming through here?
I think you addressed most of them. We will, if some of them might need more of a review, so we will put those in the resources when they go out later. Michael has asked about the ability to download statements, and this is with respect to the IRS. But I'm not sure. So we don't have that feature. And so they're asking if it's on the roadmap. So aside from adding it as a feature request in the community, um, and just keeping tabs on updates there, it's not something that it's not a feature that's being worked on currently. But other there might be more input from other community members. So it's something we will look into and address in the FAQ resources that go out.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I thank you so much for participating, everyone. This is great. It's so awesome to see so many new people here joining Tiller. And hopefully we'll see you at next week's webinar as well. So again, same place, same time. You can sign up for that using the same community post that you found this link from. And we'll also update the banner in your account to reflect the new webinars going forward. But yeah, if anything comes up at all, we have an awesome support team who's online every day, who's here to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. And definitely, we do have a session all about our community, but don't wait for that to poke around in there. The community is such a great place to learn new things and connect with other folks who maybe are more experienced using Tiller or have experience doing creating a specific sheet that is relevant to you that's not included in the foundation template. So definitely take a look in there, check out the Help Center, and keep an eye out for an email either later today or early tomorrow that's going to include this recording as well as answers to every Q&A that came through. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. It was great to see everybody.
Thanks, everyone.